You thought it was going to be tetrafolium, didn't you? But little did you know. This is monofolium on the microphone. That's right. You might be asking yourself, who is monofolium? Well, that doesn't concern you at all. I'm here today to espouse the truth, tell you about Lunatone in ADV OU. And here's the thing about Lunatone, right? You might think, oh, this is a bad Pokemon. You're looking at the viability rankings. You don't see Lunatone even sniffing the viability rankings. You could even go into the aggregate viability rankings. You could see some real crappers like Ninjask and Jumpluff and Camerupt and Wailord. Wailord, what the hell? Are ranked at some stage here. And our sad boy Lunatone is not. But I'm here to tell you that Lunatone is really good, actually. Now here's a comment question. We're going to boost Tetrafolium's engagement. God knows he needs it. Now that Speed Pass is gone, are you happy with the state of Gen 3 Baton Pass? I mean, I think Belly Drum is a little bit concerning, but ultimately I don't think it's too bad. It's a little cheesy, all of you running your Memento Gardevoir. Not the ethical way to use a psychic type, in my opinion. But let's talk about a much more ethical way. And specifically, we're going to look at levitate as an ability in Gen 3. Gen 3 introduced abilities, in fact, to competitive Pokemon. But levitate is one of the best abilities because it provides an immunity to ground type attacks, but that's not all. Taking into account Earthquake, which is one of the most common attacking moves in the format, and very commonly used as coverage even on non-ground type Pokemon. Think about your Tyranitar, Metagross, Aerodactyl using them. But it also gives you immunity to spikes. Imagine that, not having to take spikes damage and not having to bear the advantages / disadvantages of being a flying type, you know? Ice, electric, rock, all decently common coverage types, but you can be whatever type you want with levitate. It's also good to note that the ability Arena Trap, primarily used by Dugtrio, but some unethical gamers will use Trapinch. It will not trap you if you are a levitating Pokemon. So there are two types of levitators, in a sense. There are these ground neutral levitators, your Pokemon who do not have a ground weakness. Claydol, Flygon, Misdreavus, all relatively good Pokemon. And Levitate is still really good for them because, you know, not being susceptible to Spikes damage or Dugtrio trapping or even being able to find entry on Earthquake is fine. But there are also these Pokemon who otherwise would be ground weak. Your poison types, such as Gengar and Weezing, but also your rock types, such as Lunatone and Solrock. Oh, I mean, there's also Chimecho and Unknown, I guess, but they suck, so we're not going to talk too much about them. But let's talk about our rock psychic boys. Or girls, or I think they're actually genderless, so our rock's psychic things, I guess. This combination of traits is shared between Lunatone and Solrock, and we can examine what their weaknesses are. So, I think one thing that you would want to note here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weaknesses. Now, some of these weaknesses are not so bad. I mean, Steel is effectively just being weak to Metagross. There are a handful of HP Steel users. Steelix might use Iron Tail, but I mean, for all intents and purposes, Meteor Mash is the only Steel type move that's worth worrying about. Ghost, a little bit underrepresented as an attacking type. There are certainly Pokemon that use Shadow Ball, such as Medicham and Snorlax. Some Pokemon use HP Ghosts, particularly like your Machamps or your, maybe sometimes Breloom. But the rest of these types are pretty common. Hidden Power Bug, very common. Surf, very common. Hidden Power Grass, of course. And Dark, well, a little less common, but Pursuit is a very, very notable weakness to have. Now, thankfully, both of these Pokemon are faster than Tyranitar and get access to a fantastic move that we will be talking a lot about. No spoilers, of course. So, Pursuit is not as difficult to navigate around. Not to say that it's not a consideration, but we have some technology here. But our resistances are quite good. Resistances to normal, flying, and fire are pretty nice. A ground immunity rather than a weakness is really, really good, because ground weakness is arguably the biggest drawback of being a rock type. But we get to enjoy the resistances that we get without having to deal with that major weakness. And Psychic, well, it's probably overall worse for the defensive type of these two. Bug, Ghost, and Dark, like, it would be better to not be weak to those than to be weak to those. And we get all of, what, a Psychic resistance for our troubles. It's not really worth it. But it does give us some interesting matchups into Psi-Fire variants of Celebi and Jirachi. Very commonly, these Pokemon are just running those two types of moves, and we can simply just tank them. But what about our offensive stats? Well, Solrock has a pretty middling 95 base attack stat, but it's not the end-all be-all, not the worst, because you have a Stab, Rock Slide, and Explosion. So, those two things, I mean, Regirock has those two things. It only has 5 more base attack. I mean, Regirock also has a lot more defense. Arguably has a better defensive type. Gets access to moves like Thunder Wave, which are really helpful. But that's not helping my agenda, so don't think about that too much. An Adamant Choice Banded Explosion will OHKO basically every Pokemon in the format except for 252 HP Tyranitar, Defense Invested Jirachi, Metagross, Skarmory, and Fortress. And I mean, obviously Ghost types, but I mean, no Ghost type really wants to switch into a Choice Banded Rock Slide either, though. And you do have access to Shadow Ball, which is quite nice for Solrock. So here's a little bit of a demonstration what we would do to this beautiful bastard Swampert. That was violent. Might have to put a content warning on that one. Offensively speaking, though, Lunatone kind of sucks. But there are some offensive benchmarks maybe worth noting. With 120 or 28 with a plus nature, Lunatone can OHKO a DD Mence with Ice Beam. And note that DD Mence is the bulkiest variant of Salamence that you will typically see. For your non-DD Mences, like your Mixed and your Choice Banded Mence, you are threatening to OHKO them with no investment, I believe. So it's actually quite good. With 176 or 80 with plus investment, you can guarantee an OHKO on defensive Flygon. Not too bad. With no investment, Lunatone can always 2-hit KO Gengar with Psychic, and you could run 96 or 8 with a plus nature to guarantee an OHKO on the offensive Gengar spread, which usually only runs 4 special defense. It's not that bad. But there aren't very many other offensive thresholds worth chasing for Lunatone. Lunatone has a much lower attack stat than Solrock does, so coverage options such as Rock Slide and Earthquake are not quite as powerful for Lunatone, so it's not really worth going the mixed attacking route. Instead, We're going to look somberly at the full moon, such as Lunatone does in this card art. Lunatone's got some really good TCG card art. You should check it out. We're going to use Baton Pass and some sleeping moves, a very ethical way to use a Lunatone. Now, those of you who are watching this channel, you may be familiar with this guy, Tetrafolium. Despicable guy. Done some very bad things. Perhaps I'll bring them to light one day. But he has a whole diatribe on his video titled The Gen 3 Baton Pass Iceberg. Very original, by the way. Such a original content creator. I'm not going to repeat him too much. If you're really, really curious, you could go check it out, but why do that? Just watch this. We're going to focus on sleep as a form of anti-phasing. Lunatone has access to the move Hypnosis, which gives it a really nice tool to harass phasers. So, what does that mean? That means that we can boost and Baton Pass. So, let's take a look at some Pokemon that also have access to Sleep plus Baton Pass. So, many Pokemon, in fact, get Hypnosis. Lunatone, nice Pokemon. Hypno, nice Pokemon. Mr. Mime, not so fast, my friend. You're banned. And Rapidash is there as well. Don't know what you're going to do with Rapidash. I think the only boosting move it gets is Agility. No longer able to pass Agility. So, the niche that you thought you might use Rapidash for, nixed. Can't do it. To our right, we have Smeargle using the move Spore. Very ethical Pokemon. And then we have some more ethical Pokemon. Sleep Powder users Venonat and Venomoth. Notably, Venonat is quite good in the role of Baton Pass plus Sleep Powder because it has the ability Compound Eyes, making its Sleep Powder about 97% accurate. Tetrafolium, the fool that he is, said 91% accurate. Gotta hate that guy. Sing. Not a very accurate sleep move. Neither is Hypnosis, but Sing is a little bit worse at 55. And our options here are Mawile, who is, okay. It's got the Steel type, pretty good defensively. Intimidate, but it has pretty bad stats. Not very good at passing its own boosts because it's very easy to switch into. But it does also have Taunt, which is a nice anti-phasing technique. Delcatty has some horrible stats. I guess you could use it as a Calm Mind passer. I don't think I'd recommend that though. And Spinda, another Pokemon with terrible stats, but does have access to the 100% accurate confusion move Teeter Dance. Sort of another form of anti-phasing, if you would. So, yeah, maybe that is useful. But of all these Pokemon, the best is probably got to be Smeargle. Okay, and then after that, probably Hypno. But then after that, probably Lunatone. Lunatone does not have any suggested movesets in OU, the fools at Smogon University. They've not tapped into the true power of the moon. But this is what they say to do. Baton Pass, Calm Mind, Hypnosis, Psychic, or Ice Beam. Very good move options. I would agree with this. But then there's Set here. Max HP, a lot of defense, a little bit of speed, and a modest nature. Curious. And this fool at Smogon University, perhaps even the dean of Smogon University, says, many people don't know that Lunatone gets Baton Pass. I am not many people, my friend. It can sweep on its own, too. Or It can use Baton Pass to pass a Calm Mind to something fast like Electabuzz and Sweep. Interesting. Maybe Electabuzz could have a niche. In UU, it's terrible. Just use Jolteon instead. Are you a fool? So, the suggested spread here, 16 speed, would put us at 180 speed. That's an okay tier. It's going to outspeed most Skarmory and the bulky and mixed variants of Metagross in many cases. Not all the time. But it might help us to have a little bit more speed. So, here's what I'm proposing. We're going to take the Smogon set, and we're going to put some more speed investment in. We're outspeeding defensive Suicune. We're going to put the rest in defense. The reason why we want to outspeed defensive Suicune, if that's their Roar user, then we can go for Hypnosis, and 60% of the time we will land and then pass the Calm Mind boosts that we have accrued to a teammate who is better equipped to handle Suicune. Now, you could go a little bit slower than this if you want. 209 is going to outspeed most Metagross sets. You could even go down to 198 or perhaps 199 to outspeed the most common Agility Metagross set as well as Milotic. But, I mean, the drop in defense, it is not all that consequential. The only Pokemon that we're really going to be able to come in on and threaten to Calm Mind boost against would be a physical-oriented Salamence. It does not have a great move to hit us. Typically, its best move is Rock Slide, which is, I mean, it's not great. Earthquake would be nice if we didn't have Levitate, so keep that in mind. Levitate is the saving grace for our beautiful moon-shaped creature here. But you could also find your way in against a double-edged Tyranitar, as double-edged Tyranitar's best move to hit us is also simply Rock Slide. Now, Stab is going to help it do quite a bit more damage, but we should be able to live a Rock Slide or two, and then perhaps pass a Calm Mind boost to something that is more well-equipped to handle the Tyranitar. Some non-HP Grass special attackers, particularly the ones that do not have super effective stab moves, are also going to have some trouble stopping the Lunatone from doing its dance. A moon dance. A marvelous night for a moon dance, don't you think? If you don't know that one, you need to enculture yourself a little bit more. If your opponent is going to switch, you want to save the Hypnosis. CM on a switch, and then Hypnosis what comes in. That'll get you an extra turn of sleep in most cases. Now, it's not always feasible. They may have something that is a hard counter to Lunatone that you have to get the sleep on as it's switching in. Otherwise, Lunatone will not be able to do anything. You'll just have to identify that with some team knowledge, some game knowledge. Pay attention during your games. Figure out what moves your opponents have. That's rule probably number 2 of playing competitive Pokemon. Rule number 1, of course, is watching Monofolium. And you might be saying, what is the significance of Monofolium? Well, I'm an enlightened gamer. I've realized the power of Monotype, in particular, Monopsychic. Psychic is a fantastic type in ADV. Not necessarily because of its own inherent traits, but because of the Pokemon who have the Psychic type. So here's a list of all the OU ranked Psychic types. Celebi, Claydol, Jirachi, Medicham, Metagross, and Starmie. You could make a solid team with just these 6 right here. And you know, there are many a mono-psychic player who have used just these 6 right here and achieved glory on ladder. I mean, if 1600 elo is glory, But these are not the only Pokemon that can be used on a Mono Psychic team. We have some fantastic options in the UUBL tier. Alakazam has fantastic speed control. Espeon has okay speed control. Exeggutor has no speed control, but it does have explosion. Gardevoir is sometimes okay at trapping Dugtrio. Not super commonly, because pretty much the only move that you'll want to be trapping Dugtrio into is Aerial Ace. Possibly you could trap it into using Rock Slide, but that's a recipe for getting flinched at the wrong time. It is really good at getting a Memento off, but don't, please, that's unethical. To kill your own Gardevoir off for what? -2 attack and special attack on the opponent? That's a sicko move. Jinx, very ethical Pokemon. Leads, gives a little smooch and puts the opponent to sleep. Quite nice. Kadabra. Slowbro. Pretty bulky, has fire coverage, not so bad. Could definitely be used on a Mono Psychic team, particularly one where you're not that sold on using Starmie. Particularly one where you will need that fire coverage. It also has access to Thunder Wave, quite nice. Does not get Slack off this generation, however. But we also have some nice UU Pokemon. Girafarig, a classic. Grumpig, a classic. Hypno actually is a classic if you're familiar with Mead Pass teams, though Mead Pass does not exist really in the current iteration of the rule set. Lunatone, of course, we've talked about. Solrock as well. Slowking, that's nice. A Spadef oriented version of Slowbro. And then I guess Unown is here. Is that real? Is that right? Is it UU? I don't think that's right. I think somebody must be trolling me. But here's our team structure. I call this Monofolium Lunapass. Lunatone aims, aims in fact, to pass the CM boost to Jirachi. Baton Pass Celebi can extend the chain and even pass a substitute. Some of you didn't even know that Celebi gets substitute, I bet. Lead Choice Band Medicham is there to scare away Tyranitar and reveal the fighting resist. But I'm almost always going to Rock Slide against a lead Tyranitar in case Salamence switches in. I've opted on my Lunatone to run Psychic to stop that dastardly Gengar from being annoying. So Salamence is sometimes a little bit of an issue for this team. They're a great target for Claydol's Boom. Agility Slide Metagross is aiming to win versus teams that can't be broken by our Calm Mind Jirachi. We're going to use Claydol's Boom and anything that can't, or anything that would stop a Jirachi or Metagross from winning. And please, do not say something stupid in the comments section, such as this team is weak to Shadow Ball. You're not smart for saying that. All right. I suppose we should play some nice music, considering that our opponent is 3 Blades, and we have played some Xenoblade music here. I will play some Xenoblade 2 music. They say, in fact, that Monofolium is the master driver, possessor of way more than just 3 Blades. Medicham lead versus Salamence. Not good. But we can go to Lunatone, who takes a Dragon Claw for not that much. Scared as my opponent is to take a Ice Beam, I'm going to switch to Tyranitar. I'm not going to stay in with my Lunatone. That seems like a fool's move right there. I will instead go to Metagross, who will get a Meteor Mash for a decent 22% on Jirachi. With a raise, we can stay in and go for Agility. Now we're threatening to win. If my opponent had Fire Punch on Jirachi, I guess they win. But we're fine. We don't care because you don't have Fire Punch on Jirachi, do you? I'm just going to take my chip damage. In fact, I'm not. I'm going to Lunatone, who's going to tank that Surf. Look at that. That was amazing. And can put the Fortress to sleep, so no need to worry about spikes. And Baton passes on a switch to Salamence. Now we're in with Jirachi. Jirachi threatening an Ice Punch. My opponent does not respect that. Blissey is in. It's Jirachi. Not fantastic into Blissey, but it does have a little trick up its sleeve. We'll probably see that at some point. I can go for Leech Seed on the Blissey as I get Thunder Waved. Not that matters that much. I can simply just Baton Pass. In fact, I'll even get a substitute before I go. Now Medicham is in. Medicham is threatening a very, very big Brick Break. Does a decent chunk to this Fortress, who has burned 0 turns of sleep. It's guaranteed to be asleep here. And we can simply go for another Brick Break. What's the switch in? Swampert? That's not really a switch in. It's a Revenge Killer, though. We can simply go to Celebi. My opponent doubles to Tyranitar. Well played. Well played, 3 Blades. I will go for a Hidden Power Grass to get some damage on this Tyranitar. And Leech Seed in case they opt to switch to Blissey for some reason. But this is giving a great entry point for Metagross, who is healing all the way back up to 91. Should live a Fire Blast, should my opponent attempt to go for it. They wisely switch to Swampert. I'll give some credit where credit is due. But they do not respect the option of Hidden Power Grass on my Jirachi. This Jirachi's going stupid. It's, frankly, got a low SAT score. Speaking of low SAT score, I stay in on an Ice Punch from the Jirachi and get frozen, but my high IQ Claydol will simply thaw. I'm going to trade down with this Jirachi. No need for my Claydol at this stage of the game, as Metagross should be able to come in and live any one hit from the Jirachi. Thunderbolt doing a pittance. And my opponent is just going to run away. Flee, 3 Blades, whoever you may be. I think it's Mielke. As Lunatone was a little too much for you to handle, it seems. Honestly, I just got a decent matchup there. Let's be real. Dropping the veneer for just a moment. No, there's no laughter. It's serious business as we're up against Trollin 3. Probably a banned user, considering that they do not have a Trollin 1 or 2 account. That much I don't know, in fact. But Lunatone can come in on a Drill Peck. Given that this is revealed, Drill Peck and Protect, it has no means of threatening my Lunatone. I will just call Mind as they attempt to get a Spike up. And now I put them to sleep. Try to roar. You can't. You're asleep. And I will Baton Pass immediately to Celebi, who's threatening a lot of nastiness to that Suicune. Get a Leech Seed on a Jirachi. Sorry, that's not a Jirachi. That's a Regice. Testing to see if you were paying attention. I can simply Subseed down on this Regice. I'll be taking a net of 7%, but that's fine. And I can pass this substitute and the boost to Jirachi, who skillfully dodges Meteor Mash. Fire Punch coming down for 40%. Ice Punch coming down for the rest of the Claydol. Alright, go to your Metagross. Take this Fire Punch. That did a lot. Earthquake? Okay. I would just punch again. Gengar. Okay, I will go to Lunatone here. Lunatone takes the Wisp very bravely. Going to Calm Mind in the face of a Gengar who switches to Suicune. Suicune counter Calm Minding, as we can simply Baton Pass to Medicham. No, we are not clicking Psychic with Medicham. We are using that special defense boost to allow us to get plenty of chip on the Suicune. Suicune, scared to stay in, will switch out. Lunatone takes a Thunderbolt quite well. Will Psychic for a lot of damage on the Gengar. And can simply go for Baton Pass in case there's a switch. Thank you for your service, Lunatone. Leech Seed coming down as the Celebi does not have a fantastic move to hit Gengar, but it is faster. And we do not have to worry about Taunt anymore. Celebi will go for Substitute. Regice has to Ice Beam. You cannot let me get a Substitute up. And I will use that information to get a Baton Pass to Metagross, who gets frozen. Very skillful from Trollin 3. Metagross, unfortunately, unable to thaw immediately, as its brother Claydol did in a previous match. And I get a critical hit. That's not nice. And now, the piece de resistance. Dynamic Punch Jirachi. 4 attacks Jirachi. Z-Panther, if you're watching, this is a GOAT set right here. Medicham will simply come in to take a Will-O-Wisp from Gengar and perish. Claydol in. Should be threatening a very nice Psychic on Gengar. Instead, we get a switch to Skarmory. We'll use the Sleep Turn to spin the hazards away. And Jirachi can come back in. That's some healing for Jirachi. Fire Punch coming down. 45%. The Skarmory still asleep. Now it wakes. Gets a Protect. But no matter, that's just more chip healing for Jirachi. Go for Protect again, I dare you. Alright, my opponent identifies that Protect is not going to get them much. Regice is in. And Jirachi lands Dynamic Punch. Unfortunately, Regice haxes its way through and gets a Thunder Wave. I go for Fire Punch, and I do not get the roll to kill Gengar. Will-O-Wisp, not that consequential for Celebi. You can go for a Leech Seed that will offset some of the damage dealt. And I will Hard Switch. Now Gengar's coming back in on the paralyzed Jirachi. Foolish. Okay, maybe not so much. Stays in to get Fire Punched and lives on 1. What an ethical gamer. What an ethical gamer. And very skillful too. I wouldn't use such high variance strategies that are not guaranteed to work out. Claydol will come into Earthquake. Suicune stays in, goes for Surf. Foolish. This Claydol will pick up the kill and Explosion on a slow Regice. Now we're tied in Elo. How about that? Trollin 3. finally, we have a gamer here, Yellow Charizard. I believe that this is the alias of a gamer named Corvinus, who has a YouTube channel in which they tried to expose me for the fantastic gamer that I am. If you want to see their perspective of this game, I suggest that you go watch it. Perhaps I'll even be kind and put a link in the description of this video. Medicham. Not wanting to stay in versus Metagross, I think I will simply go to my own Metagross. That was not very much damage. Probably mixed Metagross. Thunder Punch coming down for... What is that? That's not damage. I'm just gonna agility on this. Charizard comes in. That's fantastic for me because I have Rock Slide. Swampert, though, is not fantastic for me. I will have to switch to Celebi on an Earthquake. Very good. Can simply go for Leech Seed. In fact, I'll even go for Substitute first. And Baton Pass to Lunatone, who takes a Fire Blast very well. Well, I mean, especially behind the Substitute. My opponent goes down to 15 seconds of timer. They have no idea. They're trying to find what Lunatone does. They're trying to look it up in the calculator. You won't find it. Well, you'll find something kind of close, but don't look for it too hard. I go for Dynamic Punch and miss. Wow. Very, very skillful dodge from this Tyranitar. And they opt to sack to Brick Break. For a Charizard entry, that would be quite smart if I did not have Lunatone. Toxic is going to miss. I dodge for a dodge, if you would. I can go for Calm Mind as they show the Breloom. Well, Lunatone should be able to take a sleep. We'll burn a turn. And if we wake up, Psychic is going to do a lot, but rather than risk it, let's go to Claydol. Psychic doing not very much to Swampert, all things considered. But we do have Celebi. Ooh, that Ice Beam does a lot. We go for Leech Seed, and my opponent, again, skillfully dodges. Very well played, Yellow Charizard. Instead, they'll even sack the Snorlax. That's very well played. But Terry not, as his Lunatone is going to wall this Charizard. If I can dodge a Fire Blast. Please, 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 please. Okay, I guess we won't. But we will wake up and go for Hypnosis. Night-night, Charizard. We'll go for Baton Pass as we identify that our opponent will switch to Breloom. That's not taking a Brick Break. No, sir. No, sir. Swampert. Well, you won't take 2 Brick Breaks, especially if you miss your Hydro Pump. Very nice. Charizard, that's not a switch in. You burn 0 turns of sleep. You're dead. And Pert. Sayonara, buddy. Very well played by me, what can I say? No, but well played to Yellow Charizard, also known as Corvinus as well. I believe if that Hydro Pump hit, then it would have came down to a little bit of Metagross gaming. I do think that Metagross would have been able to maybe beat the weakened Swampert. Might have taken some luck from my side as well. I might have had to dodge another pump. Depends on what they do. They could get some nice pivoting action into Charizard, but alas, I do think I was favored to win in that endgame, even if the Medicham went down to pump. But when you're Monofolium, you take your W's. And your losses, you just never post them. But If you are interested in seeing the journey of Monofolium, all of my replays are public on PokemonShowdown.com. Unlike that reprehensible Tetrafolium, who privates all their replays. What do you have to hide, Tetrafolium? You losing to a 1300 gamer? That will be it. Thank you all for joining Monofolium. Jimothy Cool, if you're watching this, I've got your number, buddy. That's not true. I do not have Jimothy Cool's phone number, and even if I did, I don't think I could pay for the long-distance calling. Australia is quite a distance away from my place of origin.